Hello and welcome to another Filmmakers Talk at Kaboom Animation Festival Online 2021. We are talking now with a filmmaker who has a film in the documentary section, and the filmmaker is Bastien Dubois, who is with us from France, and we'll be talking a little bit about his film Souvenir, which is also up for the prize for the best documentary film at the festival. Bastien, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you for the invitation.
Very nice to have you with us. It would be nice to have you in Amsterdam, of course, but now, at least through Zoom, we can speak a little bit about your film. It's called Souvenir. It's a film that is maybe the result of you trying to make a film, right? Which I think is interesting. Can you say a little bit, because the audience might not have seen the film when they see this interview, about what the film is about and how you came to make it?
This film is kind of a making of a film I was not able to do. So it's telling about all the different steps I went through to finally decide I have to do a film about the process of making a film.
And can you say?
So it's about my.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. So it's mainly about my relationship with my grandfather, who was a soldier during the war between France and Algeria.
Mamie, c'est quoi?
Bah, où t'as trouvé ça, toi?
Pourquoi t'as un scorpion?
C'est ta papy. Il a ramené ça d'Algérie.
D'Algérie?
Bah, bien sûr, quand il a fait la guerre.
Alors, allez, prends ta serviette, mets ton manteau, on y va, tu vas être en retard à l'école.
Can you say a little bit, when did you, because it was quite a long process, I think, for you until you ended up with this film. Can you say a little bit about when did you first become curious about these stories of your grandfathers and then decide that this could be a film project?
Actually, this film is kind of difficult to talk about without spoiling the movie, because it's all about how the idea comes out and all the process of achieve a film based on this idea. So it was when I was a kid, I can already feel there was some there was some issues with the story of Algerian War, and so I get the feeling, even without asking any questions, that it was like a taboo. And when I grow up, I start to develop some ideas, like writing a comic strip or something like that, to start to talk with my grandfather. It was like an excuse to be able to create a contact with him. And years after years and attempt after attempts, then I switched to animation. And at the beginning, I was really intending to write a film about what happened to him, what was the real story. And after many years, I decided it was maybe more interesting to talk about the process I went through instead of telling about his real story. It was there was more meanings and more strength in the silence and in the impossibility to communicate than in the real facts.
You yourself said, because you didn't start as an animator, I think, right? And I wondered, because some of your films before also have been animated documentaries. Was that a kind of choice, that you wanted to use animation for documentary film also at a certain moment, or did this sort of develop throughout the years?
First, I was interested in video games, so that's why I started to study animation. And then during the study, we had to do short films, and then I fall in love with the format of short films. And I was doing a lot of sketching. I always have a like drawn diary with me, and I was really interested in the journal diary format. And when I started to study animation, I did some tests, and I realized that it was there was a huge potential to mix the drawn diary style and the animation. So that's how I did my first film, Madagascar, A Journey Diary. So it was 10 years ago. and then I did I was forged in this mold, of this first film, and then it's a bit hard to leave it, and now I have. It's hard for me to imagine a story outside of the spectrum of reality. I always need to start on something which is existing. So all my films, so long as they are based on reality, yeah.
I think that's also very striking here, that the travel films are very wonderful, but what I liked really is that you did something completely different in this film, and that there are many scenes in it that are not realistic, right? That are fantasy scenes, or at least scenes that you cannot know whether they are real. I also wanted you to use two very different animation techniques in this film, which I think they're very different, but they work very well together. Can you say a bit about that choice to use these two different techniques?
Au moment du cinquantenaire de l'indépendance, j'ai été contacté par un producteur qui voulait faire un film sur le sujet. Comme il voulait un scénario rapidement, par facilité, j'ai repris la vieille histoire des petits soldats violents. Mais c'était toujours aussi gratuit et j'arrivais pas à trouver comment rendre la complexité de ce conflit. Les vies gâchées, l'horreur sans tomber dans la simplicité ou en étant superficielle. En plus, à ce moment-là, j'avais un autre projet en route et ce projet a démarré, donc bonne excuse pour passer à autre chose.
Yes, at the beginning, I really wanted to do a film about my grandfather's story, so I was looking for a style for that, and the first film was supposed to be punk and violent and with a very hardcore style, I don't know what to say. And when I decided to do a film about the process of making a film, I had to figure out how to jump from one style to another. So the first idea, it was the simplest way to do that. It was to have a black and white part and a colored one, so to make the difference. But it's a bit classical. So I've developed like two different styles. One is more childish, it's more cartoony, and one is more illustrative. It's based on the work of Jorge Gonzalez. We have a collaboration on this film. Is Argentinian illustrator based in Madrid, and so for the cartoony style, we had a collaboration with Train Studio in north of France, and I really let them handle this part. I give them animatic and rough sketches, but they were really free to handle this part because it was supposed to be my vision of the Algerian conflict from 10 to 15 years before. So I want to take some distance with this part. And also I was looking for a style that can express different feelings. Like for this cartoony part, it was supposed to be able to represent the fantasy of a young kid, with the imagination of like a fantastic journey to some African countries, and then it was jumping to the imagination of a teenage guy, like a bit pissed off by the silence of his grandfather, and so it was. My idea was to, when you see the two different styles of the film combined together, and what I wanted is that after a moment you don't know exactly what you're gonna have, what this cartoony style will express and will brings, what kind of information it will brings to you and what kind of emotion. And after a moment, there is even those cartoony part. They invited the real life style, like a bit in Roger Rabbit, except it's animation inviting animation.
Was it? I think it's very effective because the cartoony style makes the violence even worse. right? That is very strong, I think. In working with Jorge, on who's the artist on who the other artwork was based, was that difficult because it's very layered, right? Which I think is very beautiful. Was it difficult to create that style?
Actually, the layer thing is not difficult because this allow you to mix the things and to hide some glitch or problems. So you can use it as mask. So it's very convenient. The more difficult part was that this film was there was not a unique pipeline. There was no one way to do things. Every shot was different because every shot was with different approach and different styles and different textures. So for there is a 3D base for the character. So all the 3D part was kind of conventional, but there was a huge part for compositing. Like usually when you do animation, I don't know, you do like 12 days of animation and 1 day of compositing. And here it was like the opposite. It was like 1 day of animation and 4 or 5 days of compositing. And this was really hard to share this part of the work because it's when the magic happened and when everything's combined together, and that it's that part that gives the style. And also I create a lot of crazy techniques that were really difficult to handle with and to get rid of.
I was also wondering, it might be difficult in these times, of course, because the festivals are all online, but do you know how people respond to this film in France? Because I noticed that the Algerian question is still a difficult question to talk about, not only in your family, but in many families. Have you had audience responses to the film already?
I had great chance to have my film available on Arte, which is a French-German channel, for 1 year. So now it's available for 6 months. And so people can see the movie even if they don't go to festivals, or even if they don't join the online festival, there is still a way to see the movie. And so a lot of people in France can connect with the film. And at the beginning, I had almost every day a message from someone with some personal issues with the conflict. Now it's less, I don't know why, but it was really impressive to get such feedback, because I usually don't have this kind of feedback, and it's mostly very strong messages. Also, I was surprised by the fact that I get a lot of selections outside of France. I thought this film was very talkative and a bit long and with a very French topic. And at the end, the film is even a bit more successful outside of France than in France. So this was surprising for me. But I think this is not only about the story of France and Algeria. It's it's more universal. It concerns like a lot of countries have issues with ex-colonies and even like more modern conflicts.
Yeah, I think it also speaks to people. A lot of families have something that is unmentionable, right? And
Yes,
you have to
yes.
deal with a past.
Even not related to armed conflicts.
Yeah. I was wondering, because you also used your own voice and voices of family members, how did they respond to the finalized film?
So the voice part was kind of complicated because, as you know, it's difficult to hear your own voice, and I hate to hear my own recorded voice. My father did his voice. My grandmother did her voice, and I think she was like amazing. My grandfather, he can't do his own voice because he was diseased at the time I need to record. So it was a friend of him. and also it was incredible. I don't know if you can hear it when you see the movie because it's in French, but they have both of them. They have a very strong accent, and for French people, it's very recognizable. And they did it definitely sounds like non-professional, like real voice of this part of France. So it's very cool. I'm really happy with that. And about the reaction of my family, it was kind of complicated because both of my grandparents passed away while I was making the film, and my grandmother, she passed away like 2 weeks before I finished the film, so it was kind of hard. And there was not like when I showed the movie to my parents, they have not big reaction, and I was a bit surprised for that because the film is kind of emotional, and especially for us. And later I questioned them about that, and they say like it was inside and they can't reveal it. And I think it's very symptomatic of our family story, like to keep the things inside and not being able to share the emotions and the story even about the movie. So yeah.
It even sort of passes down from generation to generation, right? Which is
we still have some work to do.
Thanks very much, Bastien. That is all we have time for now. Bastien's film Souvenir can still be seen on the festival platform until the end of April 5th, and you can still vote for it also to win the prize for the best documentary film at the festival. Please join us for another Filmmakers Talk later, and thank you, Bastien, for joining us. We hope, of course, to see you again in Amsterdam next year in real life. But thanks very much for being with us through Zoom to talk a little bit about your film Souvenir.
Déjà enfant, je sentais que ce serait difficile d'en parler avec lui. Je savais même pas ce que ça voulait dire tabou, mais je savais qu'il fallait pas lui en parler. Les seules histoires qu'il voulait bien raconter, c'était ce qu'on voyait sur les photos. Quand ils avaient fait une chasse à la gazelle, ou une fois où ils avaient organisé un bal avec un orchestre. Bref, pas des histoires qui, moi, m'intéressaient en tant qu'enfant, qui voulait entendre des histoires de guerre.